Welcome back to Odd Scoops. Today, we're going to be making salted watermelon ice cream. Last week, we ended up spinning the wheel of flavor and it landed on salted watermelon. Now, I'm really excited to try this one because this will be a very interesting flavor to translate into ice cream. Watermelon you would associate more with a sorbet, and then the salt aspect of this is another part that should be interesting to translate into ice cream. And something else I'm going to be doing with this to help elevate the flavor is I'm going to be adding a little bit of basil. So I guess in reality, this is going to be a salted watermelon with basil ice cream. So game plan wise, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the watermelon and turn that into a simple syrup. I need to find a way to get rid of a lot of the water out of the watermelon and really enhance that flavor, because watermelon versus watermelon flavoring are two very different things. Now I could have gone ahead and just bought watermelon flavoring, but I wanted to try my take at making that from scratch. I think blending up the watermelon, putting it on the stove, adding some sugar, and letting it just kind of boil for a little bit and reduce down to a syrup. I think that's just the game plan for that. Then afterwards, I'll add that along with our other ingredients for ice cream. And I'm leaning towards the sea salt because this could easily be overpowered. I think I'm gonna add this in as a mix-in for the ice cream. So there's little pockets of sea salt. So since I've already gone ahead and made the syrup, let's go ahead and get to making the ice cream. And in case you wanted to see what that watermelon syrup looked like, that's how it turned out. Taste-wise, it's pretty good, very sweet. Helps when you add a bunch of sugar to this. But yeah, all this is watermelon that I blended up and then put into a pot with some lime juice and sugar. And you just kind of add and taste until you're like, that's it. So this is gonna be our kind of vehicle for the watermelon flavor. So first things first, we're gonna start with our cup of milk. Then next we're gonna add our sugar and guar gum as our thickener. Now, even though the syrup is sweet, we still need to add some other sugar because we're not gonna be adding all of that syrup that we just made. Then next, I think I'm gonna start with 2 tablespoons of the watermelon syrup, and then we can kind of gauge from there. And with watermelon, you wanna be really aware of how that flavor works. It tends to be very subtle, and that's why I wanted to reduce it down to a syrup to kind of enhance that watermelon flavor. Now I almost forgot, but I also plan on adding basil to this. So we have our watermelon base ice cream, and I'm going to add some basil. I just kind of chop this up a little bit, and the Ninja Creami will do the rest. We want to add some of this to start getting its flavor in now, and then the salt we will add later after this is frozen. So surprisingly, this did not take on the watermelon color that you would expect. I think part of that is because we're not using the entire batch of watermelon syrup that I made, and the milk I think is just dispersing that so much. So you can get like kind of a brief pink tint to this, but it's almost brown a little bit. But I don't want this to overpower with that syrup. So I think we have just the right amount to get that watermelon flavor in there without overpowering, but that's a better look. What that looks like right there. You're definitely getting a nice watermelon smell from this. Not so much from the basil, maybe a little bit, but I think the watermelon is the superior smell here. So yeah, I think we're ready to go ahead and freeze this overnight. All right, it's the next day. Let's see how this turned out. Okay, this is promising. We're getting a lot more of that kind of watermelon kind of red color. I wouldn't say it's like completely red, but you can definitely see it's starting to kind of take that color on, which is good. The basil is still frozen on top. I'm interested to see how that's dispersed once the Ninja Creami blends this up. That's what that looks like right there. Smell-wise, I'm getting a nice refreshing watermelon smell from this, so that's good. A little bit of basil, but we're gonna get more of that basil smell once that's blended up. So far, this looks promising. I'm really interested to see how strong that watermelon flavor is going to be based off the syrup that we added, because I think we added like 5 tablespoons. So hopefully that's enough watermelon. And in case you're wondering when we're gonna be adding the salt, I've been debating on whether I want to mix it in or add it as a topping, and I'm leaning towards using it as a topping. That's what you would normally do if you were having the salted watermelon. You just have the watermelon, you add the salt on top, and it allows me to control how much salt is in there without ruining the entire ice cream. So if there's too much, I can just scrape that off and start over again. So yeah, I think we're ready to go ahead and blend this up. All right, this is looking pretty good. I am already seeing some of the flecks of the basil, and so that's a good sign that this was dispersed out pretty well. That's what that looks like right there. Yeah, getting a nice watermelon smell from this. Not a lot of basil, so hopefully that basil doesn't get lost in this. I felt like I added the right amount, so we'll just have to see when it comes down to taste. But yeah, other than kind of the consistency, this is looking all right. Obviously, you would expect a more watermelon-like color. I call it like a earthy pink kind of color where it's like it's starting to turn, but it still smells amazing, and that's what counts. So I think we're ready to go ahead and serve this up, and I'm really excited to see how it tastes. I can see right there, very soft consistency. And then we have our sea salt here. And I am just going to kind of just sprinkle this kind of throughout on top. All right, that's what that looks like right there. The salt, you can tell, is already kind of dissolved into the ice cream. So I could see just like little spots where it would be. Other than the basil here, there's maybe a couple flecks you can see there, but there isn't a bunch that's dispersed throughout. We'll see how it is. So there's only one thing left to do. Try this. Bon appetit.
That's the last rubber band I had.
That's a 10.
This right here, this is real good. I want to go back for another bite just to make sure. Yeah, this is super good. The watermelon comes through really well, but not overpowering. Like if you're comparing watermelon syrup to like the flavored watermelon things, I would say those ones are a lot sweeter. This one isn't. This tastes more like I made it out of actual watermelon. So it has a more natural taste to it. And I actually prefer that for this ice cream. This might sound gross, but it's like a watermelon and cream kind of thing. So just compare that to like an orange and cream or something like that. But really good watermelon taste to this. I get just like a hint of basil. If I was to do this again, I would add maybe a little bit more basil because I'm not getting that. Because if you didn't tell me basil was in here, I would have no idea. But watermelon coming through really strong. And then the salt, fantastic. You get the watermelon flavor first, and then as that starts to kind of dissolve in your mouth, then you're left with this kind of like little pockets of salt in there. It keeps you wanting to go back for more, but it pairs really nicely, and it's just this fun little extra thing that's in the ice cream. I think salt as a topping is probably the better way to go. This is an absolute win in my book. I was really worried I was gonna get the watermelon flavor off or not enough, but I am really happy with how this turned out. Yeah, other than it needs more basil, that's really my only note on this. So because of that, I'm gonna give the salted watermelon basil ice cream a 5 out of 5 scoops. I couldn't ask for anything more from an ice cream like this. The watermelon is just right. The salt is just this great extra kind of like crunch and different flavor components, kind of gives you that umami a little bit. The parts of basil that are in here are working really well. I think just like maybe probably double the amount I used and you should be good to go. So other than that, like this is so good. This will be a new summer treat I'll be doing for future years because this is a really good ice cream. Yeah, watermelon, salt, and basil apparently makes a fantastic ice cream combo. All right, it's time to churn the wheel. Ooh, okay. Awesome. This means it's time for our next monthly viewer's choice. Now I put a poll out on my page and it looks like fried cheese curds is going to be the winner. So yeah, that looks like it's going to be an interesting ice cream and I'm excited to brainstorm ideas on how to make that work. I'll see you guys next week.